Hey guys, you should have picked up this half sheet. Go ahead and glue that in. We're going to talk about this just briefly and then pretty much use it as notes, not as a warm-up. But today is October 4th, 2016. I just put this, title it as Slope Review. This is my page 51. Notice that in your table of contents as well. Okay, noticing your table of contents, we filled out finding the slope from a graph in two coordinates, page 49. I'm going to go ahead and put a star between the calculator notes and what we did the last time. And at the bottom of my table of contents, I'm going to go ahead and put my little star down here. And I'm going to put slope review. And this is my page 51. So go ahead and label that based off of your page number that you're currently on. And for the warm-up, again, we're gluing in this half sheet. And when you are done gluing that in and waiting patiently for everyone to finish up, what I did here is I wrote down some ordered pairs for each graph. And I want you to graph these. So for instance, these 4 points, I want you to graph on this graph. These 4, this graph, these 4, this graph, and these 5 on this graph. So go ahead and take a second to do that. Connect your points with a line with arrows on both sides, and then when everyone's ready, we will begin. Okay, so yesterday we talked about finding the slope from a graph table and two ordered pairs or 2 points on the graph. Okay, we're just refreshing our memory about slopes. So again, this graphic organizer discusses types of slopes. Go ahead and get your highlighter out. Okay, the 4 types of slope. The first 2, positive slope and negative slope, are 2 most popular slopes that we see. But then remember, the 2 at the bottom are zero slope and undefined slope. So these are the 4 different types of slopes that we're just going to review today before you actually start finding the slopes for your assignment. So let's go ahead and start off with the positive slope. So for the positive slope, I asked you to plot these points. Okay, -5, so I'm going over -5, down -3. That's the first point. Over -2, 0, 1, up 2, and then over 3, and up 4. Okay, so these are my 4 points that I asked you to graph. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line to connect those points. And since I know this is linear because it makes a straight line, I'm going to draw arrows at the end to show it's continuous. So let's talk about the attributes of a positive slope. Remember, we discussed that this is a positive slope because if I read it from left to right, it is going up. Okay, positive slope goes up from left to right. Now, again, the slope in our equation, write this at the top, y equals mx plus b. The m represents where the slope goes. So if I know this is a positive slope, I know that that m is going to be a positive fraction or a positive number. So how do I find the slope from this graph? Okay, remember we discussed yesterday we could pick any 2 points on this line and do rise over run. So let's pick these first 2 points. Okay, I'm going to start with the farthest left point. I'm going up 1, 2, 3, so positive 3. And I'm going over 1, 2, 3 to the right. So positive 3 over positive 3. So my rise over run would be 3 over 3, which is 1 over 1. So my slope here is a positive 1. Okay, which again, if it's going up from left to right, I know that the slope is going to be positive. So whenever we're looking at equations for a positive slope, the m is always going to be a positive number. So m is equal to a positive number. Go ahead and put a box around that. Positive slope, that m has to be a positive fraction or a positive number. Okay, let's go over to the negative slope now. Okay, negative slope, I asked you to graph the following points. So negative 4, comma 4, over negative 4, up 4 would be the first point, over negative 2, up 2, 0, 0, and positive 3, and down 3. Again, I'm going to go ahead and connect my points, and draw an arrow on both sides to show it is continuous. And this shows me a negative slope. Okay, just like positive slope, if I read it from left to right, the direction it's going tells me the name of the slope. So since this from left to right is going down, I know this is a negative slope. Okay, so now if I wanted to find the slope again from this graph, I'm going to do my rise over run. So I'm going to pick 2 points. So let's pick the first 2. I'm going to start at the farthest left point. Now again, I go up or down first. So it looks like I'm going to go down 2, which would be my rise, over 2 to the right, which would be a positive 2. So my answer here for my slope, simplify that, would be negative 1 over 1. My slope here is negative. Okay, so when it comes to a negative slope, okay, in my formula, that m is going to be a negative number. So the m equals a negative number or fraction. Okay, so those are the first 2 types of slopes. Okay, the next 2 types of slopes, listen very carefully because these might be, you might need a bigger refresher on these 2. So let's start off with the 0 slope first. Okay, let's go ahead and graph these points. So negative 4, 5, negative 2, 5, 1, 5, and 3, 5. I'm going to connect those points, and automatically I notice that this is a horizontal line. Okay, remember, a horizontal line, write it just like me, horizontal. Okay, the horizontal, the Z, shows me that this is a 0 slope. Okay, because again, it's not going up or down, it's just moving from left to right. Now, when we talked about this yesterday, finding the rise over run, technically I could do the same thing. If I pick these first 2 points, am I going up or down any? No, so it would be a 0. And from the left point to the right point, I'm going over 2. So in this case, it'd be a positive 2. But whenever I type that in my calculator, my answer here is going to be a slope of 0. Now, how would I write an equation for this? If my slope here is 0, okay, the equation would look like this. Y is equal to 0x plus whatever the y-intercept is. In this case, it would be 5. So technically, yes, that is the equation, but whenever I input anything for x, what will it always give me? Any number times 0 is going to be what? 0. So technically, I don't need to write that. The equation for this is just y is equal to 5. And if you notice all of my points, the y value is all the same, and that is 5. Okay, so whenever you have an equation that looks like this, you know that every y value for all the points on that line is 5. Okay, so what I want you to write at the very bottom of this is when it comes to a 0 slope, the equation to represent that line is always y equals whatever number is the same. Okay, and then the last one is our undefined slope. So let's go ahead and graph these points. Okay, 4, 6 be here, 4, 3, 4, 0, 4, negative 2, and 4, negative 3. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line for that to connect. Arrows on each side. And remember, an undefined slope is a vertical line. Okay, and I told you the V looks a lot like the U, so that's what helps me remember. And if I were to determine the slope for this line, again, I would be doing rise over run. If I pick 2 points, let's pick these first 2 points. Now I don't have a farthest left point, so I'll just go down. Okay, I'm going down a number. Am I going left or right at all? No. So it's going to be whatever number over 0. And remember when we enter that into our calculator, let's say negative 6 divided by 0, it says error because I can never divide by 0. So that's when our calculator is going to read error. That's an undefined slope. Now, how do you think I write an equation for an undefined slope? If the error, I can't put m is equal to error x plus b. That wouldn't make sense. Y is equal to error x plus b. That doesn't make sense. I can't do that. So what would this look like? What do you notice about all these points? Okay, what's this saying? All the x's are 4, which means every x value is 4. So your equation here would be x is equal to 4. So just like the horizontal line is y is equal to 5 because all the y values are the same, which is 5. A vertical line, or undefined slope, the equation would be x is equal to 4, whatever that number is. So, I also want you to put this at the bottom, is that the equation is always x is equal to a number. Alright, so I think that's a good recap of what we did yesterday. You're going to have to use your notes. But before we actually start with the assignment, what I want you and your partner to do is get out a piece of paper, and you can go ahead and cut that in half. Your partner will need 1/2. You will need the other. I'm not specific on this with labeling it, so just put your name at the top. Okay, the other half sheet will be your partner's name. And what you're going to do is you're going to get a bag of orange dominoes, and on these dominoes will be 2 points on one side and then the slope on the other side. What you're going to do is create a loop, or again, it should all be connected, and I want you to find the slope between those 2 points. Miss Osborne will explain it to you. But whatever letter you start with, say, and you can do it separately, so you're working together, but you don't have to have, all the answers should be on both of these papers. That doesn't mean I need to have all the answers on mine, my partner needs to have all the answers on theirs. Okay, just when I staple this to turn it in at the end of this game, I have to make sure that all of the answers will be on both of these stapled together. So say I start on A. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick the points. I don't have one in front of me, so I'm just going to make this up. Okay, say the points are 1, 2, and 3, 6. I'm going to write down the points. I'm going to write down the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I'm going to have to solve this. So again, x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, I expect to see all these things. If you don't have the formula written out every time, you're going to get points marked off. If you don't have the x1, y1, x2, y2 labeled, you're going to get points marked off. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. So y2 is 6 minus y1 is 2 over x2 is 3 minus x1 is 1. Now I'm able to solve. 6 minus 2 is 4, 3 minus 1 is 2, and my slope here is 2 over 1. So now, since I found my slope for A matches up with 2 over 1, I'm going to look for a card that has M is equal to 2 over 1 on it. So let's say C. Card C has 2 over 1. So the card C would look like this, where M is equal to 2 over 1, and then it's going to give you 2 new points. Okay, this would be my next card. So far I have A goes to C. Okay, in the meantime, your partner might be doing other cards or might be working with you to solve it, but the order should be the same for every single group. So once you're done with that, Ms. Osborne will come around and check the order, so put them in order, and then once she says okay, then you will staple your paper to your partner's and turn it into the tray for a completion grade. Okay, when everyone's finished, then I will go over the assignment. If you finish early, you can go ahead and head your work paper as this, and then we will begin. Okay, once you have your paper headed just like this with your name, 3-1, 10-4, whatever period you're in for my class, make sure you have that. Fold it in half, draw that line down the center. Miss Osborne will come around and hand out, or another student will hand out your homework. This is what your homework will look like. Notice at the top, and if you want to write this down so you don't forget, go for it. We want to simplify all the slopes. Okay, so if your answer is not simplified all the way, you will get it wrong. And you must keep them as fractions. So you're using your notes from yesterday and then a recap of today. 1 and 2, it says, find the rate of change. Each rate of change is constant. Find the rate of change and explain what it represents. So you're given a table here. Remember in our notes from yesterday's class, okay, here is slope from a table. I can either find the change of y over change of x, or I can use my formula. Either way, I don't care how you do it, you must show me your work. Whether it's on this separate piece of paper, or if you use the table with the carrots, you can also do it on there as well. But I need to see your work. Okay? Number 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can draw your rise over run, but I want to see you write out rise over run, tell me what it is, and so forth. So I want to see work for each problem, and your slope will go on that line where it says m equals. 7 through 10 are giving you 2 points. Then 11 through 12 is finding the slope. The next page is very similar. They give you the verbal description for 13 and 14. They want you to tell me if it's positive, negative, 0, or undefined slope, and then find the slope. So you're going to have 2 parts to that problem. Now I'm going to give you a hint for 13. It says it's giving you information from a table, okay, or 2 points. The cost of a pair of jeans is $22.50 for 1 pair and $67.50 for 3 pairs. So that's going to look like this. 1 pair, the total cost is going to be $22.50, and 3 pairs, the total cost is $67.50. Okay, so it's just another way of giving you points. It's just written out. Okay, so 13 and 14 is that way. 15 through 18 is giving you those 2 points. And 20 and 21 is a little bit more challenging, but you have to think about what you know and how to find what they want you to find. Okay, again, self-explanatory. 22 to 24, they're giving you graphs, tables. You have to find the slope for each one. And then on the last page is 10 multiple choice questions. Okay, it talks about cumulatively what we've talked about so far this year. So it's a recap of all the stuff that we learned solving equations, proportions, finding the missing side length, inequalities. So you're going to be given a little bit of recap, spiraling back to make sure we're fresh in our minds over this stuff as well. Show your work on that separate piece of paper. You have the rest of time in class to work on this independently, not with a neighbor. If you have a question, you can ask your neighbor, but again, you have your notes in front of you, so use them. Okay, whatever you finish as homework, this will be due first thing when your class starts tomorrow. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.